Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Eagle Group livecast. If you are new to our channel or you're new to Seven Eagle, we are a recruiting agency that is specifically focused on joining businesses with highly trained talent, specifically veterans, transitioning service members, and their military families and spouses. We are also an authorized skill bridge provider, so we can facilitate transitioning service members into an internship with companies in order to get them that ground level experience moving into the civilian world. Today we have a topic that's been floating around. I've seen on LinkedIn and some other places. What to wear and what is that? We're used to it being in the military. We're used to having uniform of the day requirements, whether it's PT clothes, your Class A's, your utilities, whatever it might be. So when you're leaving the military, that can get to be a little bit stressful about what's right. You know, do I wear this? Do I wear that? And sometimes what is popular in pop culture is not necessarily what you should be wearing in the business world. So I am Derek Barnhart. I am the Vice President of Recruiting for Seven Eagle Group, and I am joined today by a great guest, an excellent human, a veteran of the Marine Corps, a former U.S. Marine Corps captain, Antonio Centeno. He is a former U.S. Marine Corps captain, graduate of University of Texas with his MBA. He is a Texan, husband, father, and he is the founder of Real Men, Real Style. Now, if you don't know what Real Men, Real Style is, check them out on YouTube. He's got over 3.1 million followers. He's got social media groups and pages on other platforms like Facebook, Instagram. A wealth of knowledge. So Antonio, welcome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on and talking to us today and talking to the veterans that are out there.
Well, thank you, Derek. I'm happy to be here and ready to provide value.
Awesome. So guess the best thing that we can do is, since we're always talking about transition and it is kind of a rough patch, and you and I were talking before we got started a little bit about how the transition process has changed, but it's still not quite there. Tell us about your transition from the Marine Corps and how that went for you, and then how you ended up starting Real Men, Real Style.
Sure. I joined the Marines in 1997 and left in 2003. I was stop loss for the Iraq War, and anyone that's been in for quite a while now, it's crazy to see all the guys I served with are literally colonels and first sergeants and sergeant majors and stuff. But it was a 1 day. It wasn't 1 day. It was half a day class, and they stuffed us all in the room. They had some people show how to write a resume, or at least how they did it in 1970. And they said, good luck. And that was it. It was pretty quick. And nothing against, the Marine Corps and even the services for the way they set this up. Let's face it. Their job is to fight and win wars. It's not to prepare us for careers afterwards. No matter what the Navy says, no matter what the Army says, the Air Force, maybe you guys actually do it. But the rest, in the Marine Corps, we understand, besides eating crayons, our job is to go over there and, hey, they point where to go and we attack. You can't expect, and if you think that the military is going to do an amazing job, Instead, I like to see, and what I encourage any veteran transitioning, when still active duty a year out, and you're going to be leaving, anyone that's going to knows your retirement is 2 years out. You should be thinking now and preparing now for what you're going to do afterwards. You want to be thinking where you're going to go. And depending on that direction is going to really affect your uniform. And let me be clear, in the civilian world, they've got a uniform. Now, some of them are pretty easy to spot. Law enforcement, a fire department. A firefighter runs in a room. You know what this uniform looks like. But if I were to say, what's a successful businessman who's, making $1 million a year, what's he look like? Well, there's a few things that may pop up. Some people are going to say a suit, striped suit, New York City stockbroker. Other people, no, he's wearing a hoodie. He's over in San Francisco starting a startup. Other people are going to think, no, this guy's down in Texas. He's wearing boots, a hat, and he owns oil, land, or he's starting some company in Austin, Texas, where everyone's starting a company. Whatever it may be, you've got an idea of what that person looks like. So there are uniforms out there. And what you're going to, instead of just having 5 possible uniforms, in the Marine Corps, yeah, we had our blues, and always try to find a reason to wear our blues. But of course, sometimes when you're checking into base, you got to wear the alphas, greens. If you're, we used to have great PT gear. When I was in, we had silkies. Anyone knows what silkies are? Just go ahead and let us know down in the comments. Long live silkies. I mean, they didn't hide anything. So, what was it? Sun's out, get those thighs out. Yeah, silkies. Yep. But the reality is they send messages, our clothing, and we had only 5 to choose from, maybe when you're in serving. When you're out, there are hundreds. But the good news is you can cut that down to just a few by thinking about, where am I going? What do I want to do? My brother just transitioned out. He's E8, EOD, Army. He's down in Clarksville, outside of Nashville. And his next career, what he was able to get the training for, is he wants to be a loader. He's always wanted to be a truck driver, and he loves big machinery. So he went through one of those schools out in the East Coast. They taught him how to, operate all the big, heavy machinery. You can bet his uniform is not a suit. It makes no sense at all. He's not even wearing a collared shirt. His uniform, though, should be something that is well put together, something that serves the purpose of protecting his body, something that fits him close enough so it doesn't get caught in machinery, because that's a real big issue. I mean, just horrible story about a woman down in New Orleans that her hair got caught and she was killed, loading. The thing is there, there should have been, and there's going to be a lawsuit over there, because guess what? There should have been some regulations on keeping your hair up. And we saw this in the military. We have these regulations, we have these rules. In the civilian world, depending on where you go, there is a look and a uniform. Now you can go against that. A lawyer, you want to go to law school. You're going to use that VA bill. Awesome. Congratulations. But if you're going to go in with dreadlocks and tattoos and all over this and be showing this off, and you want to get piercings, that can, work against you, unless you're in Austin, Texas, or Portland, which I've seen great lawyer. He's got this billboard up, and that was the image and look he went for. So see, I lay out rules, but I want to be really clear that you can twist those rules. You can use them. You can go the complete opposite and use it to your advantage if you're that kind of person. But don't ignore it, and don't believe that it's a bunch of BS because society's telling you, no, we don't judge a book by its cover. Any guy that's been out there on the dating scene, no, that's a bunch of BS. You are judged immediately. Any woman watching this knows this, because, men in general, just people are very visual, and they're not afraid to tell, you're dressing a certain way, and they make comments. So knowing that, what you want to do is make sure that you leverage image and style, presentation, to your advantage. In the same way that you paid attention to your uniform. We could always identify the shitbirds. Let's be honest. We're all wearing the same thing, but you got the guy that is on point. His uniform is pressed. It's not dirty. It fits him well. He's in good shape, and you can tell because everything fits. Everything's on point. Versus the guy that didn't care. He's wearing the same uniform as you, but it looks like it just looks like trash. Like he rolled out of bed in the thing.
Yeah.
And those are the details which we could spot, and you can bet in the civilian world, other people can spot, and it will take a while. You're going to have to practice. You're going to want to dress, otherwise, because if you don't practice wearing something, you're wearing costume, like on, October 31st there, Halloween. No, you want to actually, what I encourage people to do is on your off time, if you're going to go to law school, you're transitioning out of the Navy, you've already put in your 4 years and where you're going. Well, on the weekends, why don't you start dressing the part? Why don't you start dressing up a bit? Your future as a lawyer, start practicing to become that lawyer. If you were in the Air Force and you flew, it's something that for years you were practicing to become a pilot. You didn't just become a pilot day, after a couple, video games. It was something that you practiced for years, and then it hit at some point you became that pilot. And it was before they put the wings on you, because before that you go on your solo, you do all that flying. And it's the same with style and image, except it's easier. And I think being a pilot, this is something that
pajamas that you put on every day.
What's that?
You can't beat the fact that you wake up and put pajamas on every day just to go to work.
Some people do. Yeah, some people do. But, and I get it. Maybe you're going to be working from home. Maybe you think, image and style doesn't matter. Well, if it doesn't matter, walk around naked. it kind of does. You'll be a little bit self-conscious about it. You may wonder, hey, are the windows open? What does your partner think about this? But the thing is image and style does matter. And if you're in your pajamas all day, they call this enclothed cognition. It came out of Northwestern University, where they first did the official studies, but they showed that the clothing that we wear has an effect on how we perceive ourselves to be. The classic study is you had two people wearing the same white jacket. One group, they said you're wearing a painter's smock. Another group, they said you're wearing a doctor's jacket. And then they had them take an exam. And the people that were wearing the doctor's jackets performed higher. Why? Because when they were wearing these doctor's jackets, they thought to themselves, well, it just enhanced their focus and their ability to get the job done. And that's why a lot of companies do have uniforms. You will go, maybe you're going to work for a local electrician, plumbing company, good size one. They got 100 employees. They also probably have state of the art, good equipment, and they expect their employees to present themselves well.
Well, so let's talk about that, and then let's break into this. So that you talk about the differences in the styles from depending on what the job is. But we all know that there's a lot of things that are out there that get listed out. Like you'll see something that says business formal or business casual or casual. And then when you're talking about practicing on your off time, getting to the everyday travel. I know that, a lot of times I walk around when I was in the military and we were just sitting around in garrison. A lot of the times it was just PTs, a t-shirt and shorts, and that's what we wore. Because you could throw on your field uniform at a moment's notice and go do what you got to do. So I know a lot of times it can be daunting to look at these words like business casual and all that and figure out what exactly is that. So could you break down a couple of those that are more common?
Sure. That is great if a company gives you this information. Going to business school, and this is back in 2007, I remember that they actually, whenever we were going to the recruiting get-togethers, now they were informal, they were at bars, they were at places, but let's just be honest here. You had the recruiters there, and they had an expectation. If you're going to be, trying to get into a company like Goldman Sachs, understand that Goldman Sachs, if they don't have a written dress code, they've got an unwritten dress code. Now you can try to break that. You can try to violate it, but you need to understand that, well, these guys are based out of the larger cities, New York in particular, and they are going to have a more conservative classic dress code. Same with some of the more conservative law schools, banks in general. Once we get out of that realm, though, all of a sudden, and over the last 20 years, we have seen things become much more casual. So outside of there, if you see someone say business casual, in many situations, yes, this is just a button-down dress shirt with nice slacks, not jeans, and then you'll have a belt, nice shoes. Now, I do think, wearing a dress shirt by itself doesn't usually flatter a man, because if you think about it, you wear a light colored dress shirt with a dark colored pair of trousers and it cuts you right in half. And where does it draw attention? Right to your midsection, where you may want to, you may have gained 10 to 15 pounds. Come on, it's like you got out of the military, stopped all your PT and started eating a little bit more of the Fruity Pebbles every single night. Mm-hmm. It's like, the thing is, wear clothing, and this is where you want to wear something that complements you and makes you look good. And that's why I'm a huge fan of the sports jacket. But that's business casual. Sports jacket, odd trousers. And when I say odd trousers, these are usually any type of slacks, dress pants, chinos that work with that combination. You could, if you're in New York City and it says business casual, you could wear a light gray suit, white shirt, no tie, maybe throw a pocket square in there. Again, you're going to be well dressed. And I think as much as I can go into all the dress codes and all that stuff, if you type in men's dress codes, real men, real style, you'll get an entire infographic. I break that out in detail. But I think the hardest thing that veterans are going to face is they're not used to something. And just because they feel uncomfortable wearing this clothing, because they're so used to wearing their uniforms, they're so used to that. And it's going to take a while for you to get out of that. And don't confuse, a lot of people think something is uncomfortable, but really it's unfamiliar. And there is a difference. You're just not used to doing this. It's the same thing when you go to the gym for the first time. You haven't been in for a couple of years, or maybe you go to a CrossFit gym, you're like, okay, what are these crazies doing, flopping all over the place, doing their stuff. But after you've been to that CrossFit gym for a few times, you get used to it, or you realize they're crazy and you get the hell out of there. Point being is you start to understand what this is. And again, you practice, you go out on the weekends and make an excuse of it. Your wife, she's been wanting you to take her out for dinner. Okay. You go out to a dinner and you dress up a bit, but but the reason you're doing it, yes, you love her, but the real reason you're doing it is you want to practice dressing sharp on your off time. And this isn't attached to whether you're getting out as an E3, you're getting out as an 06. It really depends on the path that you're going. Now, with business casual, again, that I did talk, you can dress that down a bit. Some people in hot weather will say, I'm just going to wear a polo shirt. That's really pushing it. Polo shirts in general there's nicer ones. There's higher end polo shirts that have really nice collars, but short sleeves, again, hot weather, you can direct towards that. Now, when people hear casual, that does not mean sloppy. That does not mean open-toed sandals. And if you are going to wear open-toed sandals, again, you can wear anything you want, but make sure you take care of your toes. Clean up those nails. Some guys, for some reason,
on the military side of this, I just want to point out that sandals are not tactical. They are not. So leave those at home.
Yeah. Again, if you're applying to work at Maui Gym and you're meeting the CEO or you're meeting somebody on the beach, there are situations. And I always think, hey, Jesus wore sandals and, the Romans conquered half the world with sandals. So, but yes, there are, in general, I will say sandals are really, really pushing it. Shorts are pushing it in general. Yes, I know we love shorts. You wear them all the time. You're from California, but shorts are ultra casual. They're not casual. When they say casual, to me, this is something that you could wear nice. You could wear dark denim. That would be, again, about as casual as I would get with jeans. I always like chinos. I like varieties of dress pants. When I say chinos, don't go for the khaki diaper butt. You want to have something that fits your body, which we'll transition here into a second about fit, fabric, and style, what I call the style pyramid. But yeah, you want to, the shirt, casual does not mean t-shirt. Again, you want, a Henley is not, again, depends on the situation, but I'm going to say this is where casual, it would look good in a polo. And there's a variety of different polos out there. You could get away cooler weather, winter weather, get away with a nice sweater. That's casual. But I've been assuming one thing throughout all this is that you're nailing what I call the style pyramid: fit, fabric, and function. And you had brought up, did you want me to go into that in more detail?
Yeah, absolutely. Since you already said you were going to transition to it, that's what I figured. Felt like the conversation was headed that way. Now that we've broken down those styles, and to get into, all right, well, if you're going to purchase that, if somebody's going to go out there and they're going to build their wardrobe, I think your fashion pyramid, that's huge, and it really breaks down, a guideline of how somebody should buy it, because you can go and walk into a men's warehouse or something like that, and these suits are expensive, and also something that you always point out, that if you conclude that, do I need to buy a $3,000 suit?
Yeah, oftentimes you don't. Again, the shirt you're wearing right now, a casual button down and a check pattern, that in a casual situation, that's a good looking shirt. Roll it up to your hot weather, just roll it up a bit. That right there, you're meeting the CEO of a small company that you've wanted to work for. He's got 40 employees. He's looking to recruit an operations manager, and you're meeting him up at the local bar, which a lot of times, unless you're going to work for a Fortune 5, a big company, a lot of these smaller companies have very informal, interview and recruiting processes. In that case, yeah, you can wear that with your dark denim and you're going to look good. Just make sure everything's clean. You're not dirty. You're presentable. Your grooming's on point. But before we get into grooming, and we'll talk about beards here in a few minutes, let's talk about fit, fabric, and function. I call this the style pyramid. And like a chair, if you're missing, imagine a stool with 3 legs. Take away one of the legs and you're going to fall over. It's just not going to be able to balance itself. And that's why how each of these are important. They're all chains, and a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So first up, fit. If I had to say any of these, the most important thing is to get the fit of your clothing right. Now, In the military, you're issued your clothing and they try to get the sizing, and there's a little bit of give depending on, everyone's about the same size. Things are cut to usually a more athletic shape because we're mostly, for the most part, in decent shape. In the civilian world, you're going to find that a medium in one brand does not fit like a medium in another. They use different models, and some of them are all over the place. And they make this off the rack clothing to fit 100 different body types. Now, with your cheaper clothing, we're talking ultra casual t-shirts, jeans. This isn't really worth getting adjusted unless you really buy high-end jeans. Then I guess you can get them hemmed. But when it comes to your nicer clothing, especially any type of those slacks, chinos, those type of gray flannels, you definitely want to get those adjusted to fit you a bit better. Oftentimes, you're going to put something on, it's great in the length, or maybe it needs to be hemmed a bit. Maybe too much room in the buttocks area. So guess what? You're going to just go to a tailor, seamstress, for a few bucks. She's going to go in and she'll bring that stuff in. When it comes to your jacket, go to a tailor and make sure if you're going to get that sports jacket that you get it brought in a bit, because you spend a lot of time in the gym. You want to make sure the clothing shows that you have a strong masculine shape. Now, we're not going form fitting here, but you are going to want to eliminate a lot of that excess fabric that's going to be on some of that more structured clothing that we're going to find out there. So fit, got to nail it. Fit is king. Next up, we talk about fabric. When I say fabric, I'm talking about the build of the clothing. Price is one indicator of usually quality. It's going to be very hard to find high quality clothing at a cheap price. That's just rare. A business company will go out of business doing that. But you will find cheap clothing sometimes that's at a high price, and that's really sucks, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you can go down a bad path and you can end up spending $200 on what you thought was a really nice shirt, but it's more of a fashion shirt that the guy was just charging a high price for, and after a couple washes or after one season, it's totally out. So when I'm talking fabric, you want to pay attention to the quality, and the best thing you can do is go into the best store in your area, whether best menswear store, best women's store for clothing, and go and look at great quality clothing. It's kind of like when you go to the range and, what's a good shot? Well, a good shot whenever you're shooting next to a guy and you see like him consistently hitting bullseye, boom, 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 boom. What's a great pilot? Well, you see when you see one and you see the way that they control, you notice all the details that go into being a great pilot. This is a guy that's like studying, the mission, hours and hours before he goes out there. He's on the weekends. The best pilots I ever met, one guy built his own simulator in his own basement on his own time so he could put in the extra hours. And when you go to these you go to these stores and you start talking to people, they show you, and I can talk about it all day, but until you see and you touch with your own fingers some of the finer wools, you hold a pair of dress shoes that cost you $400, but you understand why and the way that they're stitched together and built. All of a sudden, you're able to identify and spot quality. And that's important because when you see quality on sale a month later, 2 months later, you're able to pounce on it because you're like, I remember this. I know what it looks like. This is a great deal. And it gives you confidence later on to be able to jump in and save. And again, that's why I like guys, if they're transitioning a year, they're not leaving for a couple of years. Start building the wardrobe now, because so another thing I talk about is the trade-off of time and money. The more time you have, the less money you will have to spend. The less time you have, the more money in general you will have to spend to get what you want, to get the high quality. Fit fabric. Let's talk about function. The function of the clothing is getting back to that first point about what's your career path. Do I think that you need to, again, spend a lot of money on suits? No, because if you're going to you're going to be starting your own handyman business. You've realized, hey, people are willing to pay me, $100 a job to come in, that only takes me 2 hours. I'm going to go into business for myself because I can do 4 of those a day, and I'll be making, on average, $800 a day doing my own handyman business. Now, do I think that you need to spend a lot on clothing? Not necessarily, but I do think probably having your own really good, thick cotton long sleeve shirts is going to be important. Why? Because cotton's very durable, takes a stain, it can pull it right out, It's going to protect you because you're going to be around hot pipes, because you're going to be doing some, maybe a little bit of plumbing work. It's going to, so in that case, you want to pay attention to the function of the clothing. And the function is, what do you need it to do? With suits, yes, they can protect you. And that was their historical. Suits actually come from military wear, and they were used in a variety of situations, including, you go back to Napoleonic Wars, look at the suits they're wearing. Very similar to the ones we're wearing, except they were folded in a different way and had more, fancier buttons and all this other stuff. But, people used to fight in those suits. Nowadays, we're not doing that. The suit is more for the presentation and the image. And that's why it's function. And when you understand the function of the clothing you're going to be wearing, whether it's for looks and sending a message, or it's for protection, then all of a sudden you're going to be more likely to get the right things for you. And assuming, again, you're going to be spending, you want, let's say, boots. Do I think you should go out and buy designer boots? Not necessarily, unless you're going to go into the design field or a creative field. But steel toe boots that have, that are, Goodyear welted, that can be resold, that are going to last you for 10 to 20 years. Hell yeah, it's probably worth spending a good amount of money on those, because you're going to get your money's worth out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's, since we covered those areas, I think before we get into, I got some other things. Let's touch on grooming standards.
Yeah.
I know that we're all used to, I know that most people that I know, that when they get out of the military, or while we're still in the military, we're like, man, I can't wait. I'm going to grow a big ass beard. I'm going to grow my hair real long, and they want, they're 2 steps away from getting on that Harley and riding down and looking like they've got hair going everywhere and beard going everywhere. Just because we get tired of the short hairstyles. What are some things that I've seen comments where people have said, no, you still, for going to a job interview or working at a company, you still need to do that. And I know you talk about this a lot in some of your videos. So what are some basic guidelines for grooming standards, for hair, for facial hair, and even for tattoos? And then you mentioned piercings. What is tasteful for some people? Because piercings are becoming more normal now.
Yeah. So again, it depends on what path you're going down. You're going to be heading into construction, and you're taking a foreman position. A well-groomed beard, not going to be an issue. If you are going into banking, even if the beard is well-groomed, you may have someone in the interview process not just for some reason they just have a bias against it. You will see in a lot of white-collar positions, especially in conservative industries, there's still a little bit of a bias against. However, if once you get hired, you've been in for a couple years, maybe that's the time to grow it out. But again, everything in the key year is going to be well groomed. Now, when it comes to, being an urban beardsman or something like that, I highly recommend Eric over at Beard Brand. He's got an entire YouTube channel and company that's dedicated to grooming and taking care of your facial hair. But I think that's the key, is just think, hey, is this look well put together? Am I taking care of it? There are beard oils. A lot of guys, they just start growing it for the first time. They look like Grizzly Adams. Now you want to, unless you're going into logging. And then of course, the function of the beard is more of keeping you warm and a little bit of even protection. But even then you don't want it to get caught in your equipment. So don't go crazy with the thing. Piercings, again, more acceptable. The year's 2022. And I'm sure that, but there are certain cities it's more acceptable in, certain industries it's more acceptable in, and certain areas. So this is where, again, you're going to be in Dallas, Texas, a little bit more conservative, although, they're close enough to old hippie Austin to be able to appreciate and know that if you're in a creative field, it's almost, in some cases, it may work to your advantage. I see someone with, a full-on nose ring, some some tats all over the arms, growing the beard, and this guy is a web designer. It almost fits, versus a guy that's, in a suit, red tie, white shirt, and they're just a straight up web designer. I don't know, that person maybe looks like a little bit too stiff. So what I keep hitting on here is just control that image and make sure that it's sending that message you want to. You don't want to have your image be a loose cannon that, in a sense, goes against the message that you're trying to actually put out with your words and resume.
So what are some places where people can go to look for outside of your channel, or products that you might recommend for, because I know that you talk about skincare routine. I know that you and Aaron Marino, you both have patched on that a lot. I know you guys work together quite a bit. But what are some products where they can go to, where somebody who's new to this type of stuff, like for example, beard care and stuff, there is a lot that goes into it. Typically, we don't have, on the military side, you don't have enough time to grow a beard and really get into it and make it, well developed to where it is groomed. And so you kind of lose out on some of those things, those style points that, okay, well, this is what would make it better. This is what brings things under control. Because your appearance, your face and all that all goes into that initial contact that you make with somebody when they're formulating an opinion about you.
I would say keep it simple. Look to create a routine. Just you are the product of your habits, and a lot of us we all have habits. It's just, are they conscious, and are they ones that are taking us in the right direction? I think it was James Clear that made it popular, the idea of the 1% improvement, tiny gains every single day. And if you get a 1% improvement daily, you're going to be 37 times better than you were at the start of the year. And it's just the way that things exponentially build off each other. So if you don't have a daily washing routine, and this could be really simple, where instead of just using the bar of soap on your entire body, you actually have a dedicated face wash. So you're washing your face daily. Could be the morning, can be at night, whatever you so choose. Again, just keep it consistent. And then after you wash your face, you're replacing the oils with a moisturizer. That right there, really simple. A couple times a week, maybe use an exfoliator. Again, this is taking it to the next step. Not saying you even have to do this, but get started, building up that routine of just simply washing with a face wash and using a moisturizer, body moisturizer. Your skin's going to crack. Your skin's going to get dry. You want to take care of your skin. It's the largest organ on your body. I know some of you guys will maybe disagree with that, but for me, I'm always thinking that my skin this is your moneymaker for a lot of guys. It's what people look at. It's what they engage with. Next up, another routine I like to pay attention to is your shaving routine. Any of my dark green Marines out there, they know that if you've got curly hair on your face, you're going to have a shaving issue. And I saw so many shave chits when I was in the Marine Corps, because the razors they would give you in boot camp sucked. They were horrible. And they weren't, and you got to use a straight razor, or you got to use a safety razor if you've got curly hair on the face, and you're going to get a much better shave. Now, you can measure that if you've got a routine, and all of a sudden you start using maybe a better shaving gel, something that is clear, something that allows the razor to guide across the skin and just give you a better shave. And all of a sudden you get rid of those nicks, you get rid of all those shaving bumps, and you start feeling better about yourself. And that's what I like to see, guys just making small incremental improvements to start to improve the routine, and build small. Don't go crazy with this. If you try to do too much at one time, it gets over the top.
Absolutely. So how about, I know that, and I think it's a key point to place. This is what makes your money, no matter what industry you're going to. If you're going to the interview, this is what people see. So taking care of that, because I know I didn't pay attention to a lot of that stuff, and I probably have a face that's meant for radio. So I'm exploring out on these live casts to see just how it goes. So if the viewership is bad, I'm just going to assume it's because of me. How about accessories? How overboard do people need to go with? A lot of military members, they'll wear POW MIA bracelets or memorial bracelets. Other people will have things like, I have these two here that I wear usually, and they watches, rings, things like that. What's some good guidelines for that for people?
I always like to keep it simple. I mean, if something has meaning, go for it. Some of these bracelets can be very casual, especially if you start stacking them and you've got them all over the place, maybe a little bit much. So keep the ones that really have meaning to you. Always, and understand that who you're working for and what your audience is about. I understand that they have meaning to you, but are they going to be a distraction from the message or from your uniform or where you're looking to go? If you're going to buy a few accessories, I think that are well worth spending money on, a watch, maybe a celebration. I think, a lot of guys, especially, maybe former pilots, hey, I want to remember my time. I'm getting out. I want to treat myself to a special gift. I'm going to get a nice pilot's watch. I'm going to pick up, a nice GMT. I'm going to go over, and you don't need to go on full crazy and get a Rolex, especially right now with them being overpriced. Just find something that I love dive watches. I can dress them up. I can dress them down. I never have to worry about getting them wet. A very durable style of watch. But find the ones that you really like, and then, but be careful before you spend a lot of money. I advise you, start off slow. Maybe just go pick up a Seiko, pick up something that's a very value brand watch, maybe for a couple hundred, before you start spending, thousands of dollars on watches. Other accessories, I like to pay good money for sunglasses. I want a good lens, a crisp, clean lens that I can see, that takes care of my eyes, prevents, the dangerous UV rays from coming in. So I know sunglasses are an accessory that I'm willing to pay a little bit more for.
Okay. All right. So let's get into, as we're coming down here towards the end of this, let's get into the actual interview. How would you suggest to a veteran who maybe the recruiter doesn't have the information on what they should wear, or they just say, just wear business formal, or wear something business related, or wear standard business attire, and they leave it at that, and they try to do the research on the company, and they're really not seeing, they see a more casual look, but it's, a higher end company, what the pictures that they're seeing of the people that are working there, those are people that are already in, like you had mentioned earlier. What's a good safe way for somebody? Colors, do colors matter on the suits that they wear? Ties, no ties, pocket squares, no pocket squares, things like that. Footwear. What's a good standard uniform that somebody could go into and be like, all right, this is safe regardless of what happens?
So I'm not sure if we're talking, and there's different types of interviews. Obviously, is it a Zoom video interview? Is it going to be an in-person interview? And we'll talk about all the other things that you can control, but your clothing and your image and your presentation is something that you can control. So the person interviewing you knows that, and you want to make sure that you take that by the horns. Now, in the military, our enemy would never just give us their plans and tell us exactly, how many of there were. Like, we had to gather that intel. Treat it like this. I mean, they're not your enemy, but it is something that you got to think, okay, I got to get some intel on what to expect. And a lot of this is public information. Especially if you're going and you're applying to a larger company. If it's a smaller company, you probably, local. If you're applying to work for, the local bakery company that has 150 local employees, you could, you've probably driven by, you've got an idea of what most of the people are doing. You also want to look at the position you're applying for, because if you're applying for an hourly job as a baker, it's a very different position than if you're applying to be the attorney for that 150-man company that's been expanding rapidly. An attorney there's an expectation of how he's going to dress. Now, you still don't need to wear a full-on suit because you're down in, I don't know, we'll take Clarksville, Tennessee, but at the same time, you want to gather that information. So it depends on the position you're applying for, and it also depends on the company and how do they dress. Now, I would recommend dressing either to that level, and if you're unsure, one step above. What you want to avoid is your clothing becoming a distraction. And that applies to the colors, the patterns, your choices. This should just look simple. It should look good. And it should be a check in the box. And let's move on to the important stuff, which is you being able to speak, talk, present your case of why that they should hire you. And, you've to interview them as well to find out why you want to work here. Again, you've practiced wearing this clothing. Don't wear this clothing for the first time. Otherwise, it's a costume. And this is why I advise you to wear these things on weekends, because you're going to feel comfortable. You're going to feel good. You're not going to feel like, oh, I wonder if this pocket square keeps sinking into the pocket. You're not thinking about that. It's like you've worn this already 7 or 8 times. You're good. And for the other things for the interview, fragrance, I'm a huge fan of colognes, but I would keep it to a minimum. If you're going to wear anything, go with something fresh, maybe a little bit of an aftershave, but keep all that you're going to be probably in a small room. Now, if you're doing a Zoom interview, wear as much as you want. In fact, I love the idea of smelling good for yourself just because it gets you into the right mindset. Any other questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're wrapping up here, do you have any type of, I don't know, any type of other tips or general suggestions that you would want to give to the Antonio that is coming out of the Marine Corps now? What would you say to that person?
It doesn't really have anything to do with style or any, I think what was not explained to me is that I could start over. I guess I had to. I make YouTube videos. I'm in the fashion industry. In my background, I was with an infantry battalion. So, it was with 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. And one thing I always think is that don't let what you were doing in the military define who you're going to become afterwards. We get this really great opportunity, I think, when we transition out to, in a sense, want to become whoever we want to. Just, yes, I understand that you were a pilot. I understand that you drove a truck, that you were a cook, that you were a grunt, whatever it was in the military. I don't think that, that defines who you are going to be. I think everyone that served in the military, most of us have actually a pretty good dose of leadership. We also got used to being around people that we could depend on. And I really think that those are skills that are highly valued. And you just want to make sure, for me, image and style, clothing, I don't care about clothing. What I care about is that it's not used against you. It's an enhancer. It's a tool that you can use to shine and for people to be able to see all the skill sets that you have. Because let's face it, there's tons of people out there that are biased against vets. They're biased against, people because of their race, of their religion. And if you can use your image and your presentation to kind of put that bias at ease or at least minimize it so that you can shine and show that, hey, I am someone of value, I have a lot to offer, then for me, the clothing has done its job.
Absolutely. Well, Antonio, I really appreciate you coming on here. We're getting up here to optimal podcast length here. So tell everybody where they can find you and where they can connect with you at, and what Real Men Real Style has to offer.
Yeah, if they just type in Real Men Real Style, go to our YouTube channel. I've got a couple thousand videos, and we just teach guys how to leverage the science of style to dress better. 10% of my audience, though, are women. And, I know that a lot of the lessons we teach apply to anybody. We also, we've been doing a series on uniforms that's been fun. So I know I've been getting a lot of vets coming back and watching our stuff there. And, yeah, we've got a website, tons of infographics, absolutely free. We've got an email list where you get tips sent to you. So if you're looking for resources on men's style, we've got you covered.
Absolutely. Great. I appreciate you coming on, Antonio. Thank you so much. Everyone that joined us out there in YouTube or LinkedIn or whatever land, we appreciate you coming on, and check back here again for us on our different social media platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for more lives to come up. Again, thanks, Antonio. Everybody, have a great weekend.
Thanks, Derek.